Over at Marvel Comics, the character of Betsy Braddock has been through so much as a character. And in her new series, in addition to serving as a defender of Britain, she also fought back against multiversal threats as well. In the debut issue of the series, Morgan Le Fay waged a battle across Betsy, leading Betsy to kind of utilize her Captain Britain core. My name is Erick Braddock, and let's go ahead and see how Betsy's battle with Morgan Le Fay leads to a chance encounter with Captain Carter in the second issue of Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain. But before we dive deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button if you enjoy our content. And I want to go ahead and kick off our review by reading Marvel Comics solicitation text for Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain, number 2. 2 captains, 1 country, and one hell of a fight. Britain has a new champion, but don't be mistaken, she's been here for years. Morgan Le Fay is back for vengeance, and Captain Britain is first on her list. But where one captain fails, another may suffice. And Peggy's got a right hook that would inspire the devil herself. Magical machinations and feral fisticuffs abound in Tini Howard and Vasco Georgiev's continuing epic. And I want to go ahead and read off the creative team behind this issue. This one is written by Tini Howard, featuring art from Vasco Georgiev, colors from Erick Arciniega, letters from VC's Ariana Maher, and we have design over from Tom Muller and Jay Bowen. The really kinetic cover over for Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain number 2 is illustrated by Erica D'Urso and Matthew. Here's a look over at the cover for Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain number 2. And I want to give a thanks over to Adventures in Poor Taste for posting this preview of the issue so quickly. Let's go ahead and take a look here. I really enjoy Vasco Georgiev's kind of really nimble pencil set throughout this series. Overall, I think he lends so much kind of characterization to all the numerous heroes throughout this tale. I really enjoyed how Georgiev kind of lent his pencil set over to Lizzie Braddock. I think, Lizzie's choices of kind of clothes and her facial expressions kind of showed how she had, some kind of different character attributes than Betsy as well, which I also really enjoyed throughout this tale. Also, I really do kind of like how in the sort of pencil set over from Vasco Georgiev, we're being treated to kind of so many different ideas and concepts. I think Georgiev is really able to kind of shift his pencil set depending on whether it's a kind of multiversal scene over with Morgan Le Fay, or if it's a scene, featuring, Peggy and Betsy teaming up to fight against a villain, or if it's something that's kind of more X-Men oriented, like this page over with, Betsy and Rachel. There's so much sort of like in-depth plotting throughout the series, and in this issue of the series in particular as well. And I really think that Vasco Georgiev is able to kind of, lean into Tini Howard's really complex and dense script throughout this issue to really get some intriguing moments here. If I could say one sort of negative over towards Georgiev's pencil set, it's that I don't think some of the facial expressions of these characters kind of differentiate themselves enough. I don't think the characters' faces are different enough from, individual character to character. I do really notice that Georgiev is getting better over from issue to issue. So I'm really curious to see kind of what he lends towards future issues of Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain. I really enjoyed the script over from Howard on this issue. I just really enjoyed how, Betsy was able to go ahead and team up with Peggy. I think due to the fact that we've already established that there's a sort of multiversal element to this story, I don't think it felt really forced to put Peggy and Betsy over into one situation. And I really think Howard was able to sort of utilize the character of Morgan Le Fay to pull this issue in some really interesting directions. And the sort of second half of the issue, Peggy undergoes this sort of really fascinating transformation inspired by Morgan Le Fay, which leads to these really sort of epic plot moments kind of throughout this tale. There's all these sort of kind of like psychic elements of battle, as well as these sort of like physical elements. And I just think that these sort of, scripts for each issue of Betsy Braddock have been so sort of like in depth and have served not one, but numerous aspects of these characters, from some of the greater kind of X-Men context to Betsy's own supporting cast, which is actually quite in depth and fleshed out between, so many characters throughout this tale. And plus, Tini Howard is kind of expanding, Betsy's circle of supporting cast characters by sort of introducing kind of Captain Carter and also this Lizzie character from the other dimension. Morgan Le Fay as a villain seems just so endearing and complex in this tale as opposed to some other stories I've read her in. I think it's really interesting how she sort of kind of splits into three characters a little bit later in the issue as well. And just really enjoyed kind of all of the ways that Morgan Le Fay has kind of staged her assault, in such a complex manner, and how she's teamed up with characters like the Furies as well. Also, I do enjoy the fact that Tini Howard is also putting so much of an emphasis on the relationship between Rachel and Betsy. We really saw their kind of character relationship really go to some unexpected places in the first issue. And despite the fact that the second issue is dealing with so many plot elements, Tini Howard still takes just a few moments to check in with this character. And plus, the kind of cliffhanger of the issue already leads us towards some really interesting places next issue. It's so interesting to watch how kind of complex Morgan Le Fay's plans get throughout this series. And I love the fact that she's sort of like continuing and extending her plans towards a different arena, teasing kind of a different way that Betsy will interact with Morgan Le Fay in the next issue of the series. So overall, I think Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain 2 is a great story that kind of teams up two captains in one issue for a really great kind of team up that also manages to kind of acknowledge what happened in the previous issue, so this follow-up chapter doesn't feel like filler for the series. Really enjoying some of these directions that Tini Howard is going in, and I also can appreciate the really kind of ambitious set of art over from Vasco Georgiev. Very curious to see how Georgiev is going to continue kind of evolving as a creator along with Howard. I want to know, what are some of your thoughts over on Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain #2? Did you like this issue as much as I did? And what do you want to go ahead and see me cover next? Well, thank you guys so much for coming to check out the video, and we'll be back really soon for more excellent comic book content. Bye.